And Amber, oh, I see you just started to record. So terrific. Well, as Sydney continues to let folks in, again, I'll just quickly introduce myself and my team, and then I'll hand things over to our dean, Jean Giddens. But my name is Pam Lowe. I'm the Senior Director of Development here at the School of Nursing. And thanks so much to all of you for joining in and tuning in to today's virtual event where we're having a town hall and some fall semester updates from our dean. We've had one of these town hall events where Jean spoke, but it's been a few weeks, if not a few months. So it'll be good to hear from her. And just a few housekeeping items for all of us on the call today. As Sydney lets you in, you all should be muted. If you could please remain muted during the town hall, that would be very much appreciated. And as I've said in previous events, you can feel free to use the chat box feature as you wish. And for those of you who are new to Zoom, it's at the very bottom of your screen. It just simply says chat. And you can feel free to say hello to the entire group. Or if you see folks who are a part of our event today who you know personally, you can also send them a private message to say hello. But if you are on and would like to introduce yourself to everybody, feel free to do that. Share with us your name. If you're a VCU SON graduate, when you graduated, and your degree, feel free to do that. At the conclusion of our updates from our dean, there were several questions that were posed ahead of time, and I'll lead the Q&A for that. But again, if anything comes up during the town hall that you have a question about, feel free to jot it down. And once we're done answering the questions submitted ahead of time, then you can always take yourself off of mute, or you could private chat myself or Amber or Sydney, and we'll be happy to ask the questions on your behalf. And I'd also like to quickly introduce my teammates, who are Amber Yancey and Sydney Taylor. They may or not be on your screen right now, but they're giving you a wave. And so that's our team who's been putting on these virtual events for the past few months. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand things over to our dean, Jean Giddens.
Well, thanks, Pam, for that nice introduction, and welcome to all of you. We have many alumni on our call today, I can see, and we also have some of our own faculty and staff who have joined. So it's nice to actually see all of you and different perspectives. Of course, our faculty and staff will be more familiar with some of the things that I'll be sharing with you because they've been living the last several months with our reality with COVID-19, and obviously that has shaped a lot of what's happening at the university here. But really, it's a nice opportunity to reconnect. And I also want to just say how much I appreciate Pam Lowe and her team's efforts at keeping all of us connected. These are really trying times, and we have to use different techniques to be able to see and talk with one another. And so it'd be much nicer to be able to have an event here on campus to see you all in person. But this is the next best thing, I do believe. And as I was preparing this, I was thinking, didn't we just do a town hall just recently? And it has been several months. So the time factor seems to be a little bit hard for me to keep track. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just walk you through a few things that will provide a little bit of context for what is going on at the School of Nursing, and to give you all a kind of a high-level overview and update on some of our recent accomplishments, as well as what we're working on. So to get started here, I think probably the biggest thing that I can share with you, quite honestly, about happenings at the school. It's been a very stressful year, and that shouldn't catch anybody by surprise. But this illustration kind of captures, I think, how most of us are feeling, not just the faculty and our staff, but also our students. And in fact, we were just in another meeting where we were hearing about some of the challenges that some of our students are feeling, and how can they continue to be successful in their academic obligations when they're parents and they've got children that are trying to um, learn from home with the homeschooling situation, the virtual school situation. So this has just been a very challenging year, not only with COVID, but if you're paying attention in the newspaper at all, you know that the university and really our entire world is being challenged financially, which is on everybody's minds, including at the school here. Real concerns that we have, and then all of the social unrest that has happened, that has created just a whole nother level of stress for all of us. So I can't underscore enough to all of you that's probably our story really this year is coping and continuing to be productive and continuing to work through the work that we do, carry out the mission of the school, despite the fact that we have all these other things that are going on and competing with our efforts. But I do have a few things that I think are important to share. And if any of you get our alumni magazine, some of these things you will see in our alumni magazine. But trying to really pick out some of the highlights. Anytime that we can have one of our faculty members get inducted into the American Academy of Nursing, that is really truly something to celebrate. And so Teresa Swift-Scanlon and Suzanne Erminger both were inducted last fall, and soon to be inducted will be Pam Parsons. So this is really a very, very important, and many of you are also in the academy, but this is really such a high honor for any of our faculty to achieve. So the only thing that I wish is that we could be live together celebrating these accomplishments, but this is just really a very big deal for these faculty. And another big deal for our faculty is getting major grants. So our faculty work really hard with the help of our staff, our research staff, to write a lot of grants. And you have to write a lot of grants in order to get funded on these grants. In fact, I kind of think about it as going fishing. You've got to cast your line out a lot, and it's really a very challenging funding environment, and probably even more so now. But Patricia Kinzer and Nancy Jallow were funded on a $2.3 million NIH grant that will be looking at perinatal depressive symptoms. So we are very pleased. They've just started this study, and it'll be a 5-year study. So it's a very big deal for Patricia and Nancy to have that opportunity. And then Pam Parsons continues to just impress me with her continued ability to get funding for various aspects of the work that she's doing in the community through the Richmond Health and Wellness Program. That program has been in place since 2013, I believe, is when it first started, when she first got a very large federal grant to get it started. And the sign of a really great program is sustainability. And so she's the poster child of being able to take a really good idea, get some federal funds to start the idea, and then to be able to find a path for ongoing sustainable funds. And literally, she has remained funded throughout all these years, and has continued to make that program continue to meet new needs. So we're really pleased with both of these new grants. And then another big accomplishment, I mentioned this at our town hall in June, but being able to recruit a high-level researcher to the school who can lead the school's research enterprise into the future is a very big deal. I can't underscore the challenge of trying to find research deans. In fact, it's probably harder to hire the right research dean than it is to find a dean. There are more people who are qualified to be deans than research deans, if you can believe that or not. So if you're at a research intensive school, being able to find somebody with the right skill set, not only a good researcher herself, but having the skills to mentor and develop the program of research on the enterprise level is really important. So Amy joined us on August the 1st. So she is now in her 5th week, and she is, in that process of, what we say, drinking from the fire hose. So she's learning everything that she can about the School of Nursing, about the university, about our faculty, about our staff. And she's a quick study. I'm already very impressed with the added value that she will have to our school. So hopefully you'll see more. But I think just in the short time that she's been here, and shortly before she came here, she submitted an R01 grant, and she submitted a subaward grant. I mean, this woman is really a very busy researcher. So we expect to see great things with Dr. Salisbury. What else? Well, we have some exciting new programs and new things happening. Probably the biggest excitement for me personally is the fact that we now have a graduate certificate in healthcare innovation, and this is in partnership with the Da Vinci Center. So this was something that we've been working on a while, and you have an idea, then you have to put a curriculum together, and then you've got to get through the university, and then you've got to get it through the state. So there's a long runway in order to be able to admit your first students. But this fall, as of August 17th, we were able to admit a small cohort into our new certificate program. And what's really cool about this is it's not just a nursing program, it's a program for, it's an interprofessional design. So we are not only co-sharing this certificate program with the Da Vinci Center, but we're taking students from any health discipline that has an interest in this. And we're very smart in the development of it, that we're using courses in our nursing leadership and organizational science track as some of the nursing courses. And of course, you've got your innovation, or your Da Vinci Center for the other. So this is very, very fun. And we really expect to see a lot of interest in the future. But I think we started with, I don't know, 5 or 6 students perhaps. I don't remember exactly how many, small cohort, but we're excited that we've got it started. Our master's leadership track has been completely redesigned and is now known as the Nursing Leadership and Organizational Science track. So we're excited about that. And we've also been able to continue to expand our community college dual enrollment collaborative. We are in the process of signing our 4th community college into this. So what this means is we're partnering with the community colleges so that the students who are in community college programs, associate degree programs, and who are eligible can start taking RN to BS courses with us while they're still finishing their community college associate degree programs. And by doing this, it accelerates their time to graduation with their baccalaureate degree. So there's a lot of excitement with the community colleges, because what they can do is market then for their students coming in this collaborative arrangement with VCU, and essentially help the students see that they can come into their community college, and in this partnership they can still earn that baccalaureate degree faster than if they would have finished their associate degree and then had to apply for another program. So we're getting some traction on this, and having adequate scholarship funds to help support the tuition for these community college students is very important, because as you might know, tuition doesn't get covered by their financial aid. If the financial aid is directed toward the community college, they can't redirect it to the university. So we have found scholarship funds to help bridge their financial aid needs. We also have made some changes to the School of Nursing Leadership Fellows Program. You may have heard a little bit about this in the past, but 3 years ago, we started a Fellows Program. Dr. Barksdale and myself started working on this idea that we can take a small group of undergraduate students and in a seminar style learning program, bring them together a couple times a semester to help them develop some leadership skills above and beyond what they would get in a typical curriculum. And this has been a very popular and very successful program to date, and we realized that we had an opportunity to expand that program by not only offering a leadership track, but a research track. And by offering this research track, it could potentially be a pipeline to our PhD program, because we do now have a BS, post-BS to PhD research track in our PhD program. So this fall, we have made the switch from the School of Nursing Leadership Fellows program to the School of Nursing Undergraduate Fellowship with 2 tracks. One of the benefits for students signing up for this is that there is a substantial scholarship award that we're able to support them with. And it's, I think we had over 60 applications for 10 slots this year. So we are really pleased. Dr. Michael Bly, who is our director of the Langston Center, is helping to orchestrate this fellows program at this point, and he has put a lot of energy and thought into the fellows program, and really has been able to attract, I think, a different level of interest through his efforts. So we're very excited to be able to do this. We'll certainly see where this program goes, but this is a very big development for our school. In terms of development, since I said development, but in a different context, I know you all are probably already aware of this, but our development team is absolutely amazing. We had yet another very big year this past year, raising $5.9 million. The large majority of those funds raised were for student scholarships. So these scholarships then help support that Leadership Fellows program that I mentioned. And it also helps to support the Community College Collaborative that I mentioned. So we don't ever have enough money for student scholarships. But one of the reasons that this has been so important is because I want to say 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, we started gradually increasing the number of undergraduate pre-licensure students that we were taking into our program, largely because our partners, our community, our health system partners were crying for more nurses. Need more nurses, need more nurses. So, okay, let's enroll more students. Well, when you enroll more students without more scholarship funds, what ends up happening is you dilute the number of dollars that can go to any student. So being able to raise this much money for student scholarships is just huge. And in fact, $2.1 million a year right now that we have for scholarship awards for students at the School of Nursing, which is absolutely outstanding. So we have 320 students this year that received a scholarship. So this is having these kinds of funds available at the school for students is really the hallmark of a really outstanding program. So I could not be more grateful to not only those who give our funds to our students, our donors, but also to our development team who's shepherded these efforts. Another important thing that we did this past year that you may not have heard about, our faculty and staff heard about it, but I don't know that our alum have heard much about this, is we actually developed a new software program. It's called CourseFacts. So CourseFacts is a software program that helps to manage the planning of academic schedules as well as the planning of the faculty work effort or their faculty work plan. So this is just a screenshot of the homepage, but we spent about 6 months with a software design firm to be able to develop this. And we did this with a twofold thought in mind. One was we wanted to have a more efficient way, not only to plan our academic schedules and for the department chairs to be able to plan the work plans for the faculty, but there's an opportunity here for marketability. So this product we have worked through Innovation Gateway at VCU, and the Innovation Gateway folks looked at this and said, yeah, this is something that is very marketable. So they're in the process of helping us to identify schools that might want to be adopting a program like this. And the benefit then is this means positive revenue flow for the school. So if we were able, this is always the if, you never know, but if we were able to get enough adoptions for this, then we could really have some positive benefit financially for our school through the sales of this. Of course, COVID hit about the time that we were in the process last spring of setting up meetings with other schools. So with everybody's budget in question throughout higher ed, we had to kind of put this on hold. But we are picking back up the trail this fall, and hopefully we'll be able to get some adoptions in this next year. So what's ahead for 2021? Well, there's a few things that I'll share. First of all, we've started our fall semester, and believe it or not, we do have our students back in school. The building is open. I'm actually sitting in my office downtown. So building is open. We do have faculty and staff coming in. We don't have all the faculty and staff here every day, but we do have some of our faculty here on rotating days and some of our staff here on rotating days. When the students come in, it's primarily for the CLC, the Clinical Learning Laboratory, and they're also coming into the health system for their, or the, I guess they are still, I'm trying to remember, I don't want to say anything wrong. I think they're going into the community settings now too, but that's been a little bit slower to get back on track. Didactic learning has primarily been continued to be taught online. The university set a expectation that if the enrollment of the course was over 50, it would be taught online. If the enrollment was under 50, it was up to the discretion of the school and the faculty member to determine whether they wanted to do an online delivery, whether they wanted to do a hybrid delivery, or if they wanted to bring the students in, assuming you had a large enough space to be able to teach them. So we've got a little bit of didactic courses in the building with small cohorts with the master students. But for the most part, most of our students are still learning online for their didactic. As far as enrollment goes for this fall, you can see our enrollment is up. This is projected because we don't have yet our official numbers in, but you can see that our enrollment in our master's program is up. Our enrollment in our pre-licensure and RN to BS is up. Our PhD and our DNP enrollment is about the same. But overall, we're expecting a larger enrollment, and you can see that our diversity of our students, there's always a little bit of a question mark on this because the university has a category called other, and the other, unknown. Depending on which report, last year we had, I want to say 20% of our students reported unknown. So it's a little hard to know what exactly that means. I think these data are not from the university directly, but from our own data analyst who has a different level of data. But you can see that we have a fair amount of diversity in our program. I think when I first started here 7 years ago, our students were about 72% white. So there has been a shift over time, and we certainly hope to continue to increase the diversity of our student body. What also is ahead continues to be budget ambiguity. So every time I address the faculty and the staff, they probably think, I can't remember what I said last time because the story always seems to be changing, and it's not because I'm changing the story, but because it continues to evolve. The information continues to evolve. So what I mean by that is earlier in the year, it was reported, and that this was even in the newspaper, so I'm not sharing any secrets, that that VCU would have a 4.6 reduction in our FY21, which is where we are now, over what we had last year. So 4.6% reduction hurts. Essentially what that means is we reduce a lot of our operation expenses, and the fact that we aren't really traveling to conferences this year, we were able to make up a lot of the differences in those kinds of costs. They originally talked about FY22 being an 8.7% reduction over FY20, which would really, really hurt. That's where you start worrying about how many positions I'm not going to refill and or how many positions I can't keep. But since that time earlier in the year, we recently have learned that the enrollment overall at VCU was better than it was projected. And we also learned that the state is not cutting VCU at this point. So we don't know what our reduction will be for FY22. It probably won't be less than 4.6, but I'm hoping it's not more. But the bottom line is this budget ambiguity makes it very hard to plan. It makes it hard to know how many faculty and staff I can hire, because we've got a few vacancies that I'd really like to fill, but you have to be careful about committing to salaries and then being told that you don't have the money for those salaries. So it's been a challenging, at best, story, and I think this is partly what adds to the stress for our faculty and staff, is not knowing who and how we're going to replace some of the folks that we've lost. But the good news is, if you want to put the silver lining on this, is that the university is in a better position than it was before, or thought they were going to be. So I'm helpful. I'm hopeful that we'll have a path forward. And really, this is the same story that every university is experiencing, and really, our whole society is experiencing a lot of budget ambiguity. So we will weather the storm, I have no doubt about it, but this does play on part of the backdrop. And then finally, we do have for this year, our action plan initiatives for our strategic plan. And we've really just narrowed it down to 3 major things that we're going to work on. One is diversity, equity, inclusion. And I won't go into a lot of detail on this, but there are many, many activities going on at the university level, as well as at the MCV campus level, as well as some activities that we're doing here in the school to help improve our level of comfort and engagement in having conversations around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and not shy away from this. Because I do think that one of the challenges that we've had organizationally, really maybe throughout our society, is we don't know how to talk about these things very well. So we're hoping that this year will be a year of growth for us in developing a different level of comfort and skill in being able to have conversations. We have a CCNE reaccreditation coming up. So we have a great team that's already on this. Dr. Barksdale is leading the CCNE reaccreditation efforts. And so we will have our visit in the spring of 2021. That sounds like a long time away, but I think we all know in the back of our minds the clock is ticking, and we have a lot of work to do before then. But you'll hear more about our reaccreditation planning. And then the third action plan initiative is what we're already doing, but being even more intentional about being responsive to COVID-19 and how we can make sure that we continue to have organizational effectiveness with the backdrop of all of the things that have been stressing us out. So it has been a stressful year. It will continue to be a stressful year, but this is part of what we will work through. And I can't say enough about how well our faculty and our staff have responded to everything. They are amazing professionals. You would be so proud to see their efforts. And our students, I wish that there was a way that we could make all this go away so they could have what we might consider a normal nursing school experience. It's not where we are right now. So they are, I think, adapting as well as they possibly can. And I do hope that we come out on the other side, perhaps in a much better place than what we would have been otherwise. So those are my comments. I've stopped sharing my screen. I'm going to turn this back over to Pam for a Q&A, I guess. Right, Pam?
That's right. That's right, Jean. And appreciate you giving some updates on certainly what feels like a very different experience for our students, faculty, and us staff as well. I am going to head into the Q&A portion, and I'm going to go over several questions that were sent in ahead of time. And so our first question, Jean, is how are students able to make up the clinical rotations for the program?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I don't know if Dr. Barksdale is on the call or not, but if she is, she can certainly chime in. Oh, yep, you are there. So, so how did we make the time up? Well, let me just say that they have been made up, maybe with the exception of maybe a few, like I'm talking about less than what I can count on my hand. Everybody has caught up. So let's just start with that. So that's the good news. How we caught up required a lot of planning over the summer. We had VCU Health found a path for us to be able to bring our students back. So this past summer, what we ended up having to do was not only finish the clinical hours of nursing students who had to have their clinical education stopped in March. So we were moving along, COVID hits, everything comes to a stop. So we had about half of a semester worth of clinical experiences for 300 students to make up. And then in addition to that, we started the summer semester, and that summer semester had about 200 students that needed clinical hours for those classes. So it was about 500 student placements that we were really looking at to, and that's just undergrad. Then in addition to that, we had our graduate students that needed to be placed. But because we had such powerful partners at VCU Health and some of our other partners in the community, because we had a great planning team. We had a return to learn planning team. Our program directors came together, Dr. Barksdale. We had our staff help us with placements and communicate. We had to send surveys out to students to find out when they could come back. Everybody found a place, everybody got their hours in, and we did a big sigh of relief that we were able to get that caught up. So really our story now is, how do we make sure that the students get all their hours in? We're holding our breath. I think Deborah and I both are hoping, and we've told the faculty and the students to get your hours done as fast as you can this fall, just in case things go backwards again. And what we really don't want to do is shut the students down and be in the same position that we were in March, with students having a bunch of hours to have to make up. So they are working on their hours. I know that we've made some adjustments to how the hours can get done. We've had to reshuffle clinical assignments because they can't take now the same number of students on a clinical unit that they used to, where we've had to make some of the groups smaller. We've had to hire more adjuncts to create more groups to get the clinical learning done. Those are some of the adjustments we've had to make, but I think the students pretty much are on target. So I'm going to see if, does Deborah have anything you want to add to that?
I just wanted to say it was an amazing teamwork and coordination. First, we had our amazing clinical partners at VCU Health and HCA and VA and many systems in the area. And then we had our faculty who really stepped up and went above and beyond to help to accommodate getting these students through in the various units. Like Dean Giddens said, there were about 500, and everyone was really flexible. We were doing clinicals on weekends. When the semester ended, we were still doing clinicals right up until the new semester started. And we couldn't have done that without having all hands on deck and all of our amazing faculty stepping in to get us through. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Deborah and Jean, for your input on that question. The second question, have you seen any changes in numbers of applicants for the BSN program this year?
Well, when we say BSN program, know that we've got 3 different tracks. We've got RN to BS, we've got traditional, and we got accelerated. And I think I did go down and talk to our assistant dean for student services this morning to confirm this, but our overall, the applications are pretty steady for our pre-licensure. There was a slight drop in our accelerated programs, but we're not sure that that was COVID related, but slight meaning less than 25%. But we had 300 applicants for 100 spots, so it wasn't like we were struggling to have students. So those are good. Our RN to BS program that's a little bit of a challenge, but that's been a challenge for a while. So nothing dramatically different, I would say. And Deborah, do you have anything you want to add to that, since that's kind of in your queue?
Nope, I think you covered it well.
Okay. We have a third and final question that was pre-submitted. So after this, we'll be happy to open up the floor if you want to send any questions via chat or unmute yourself. So this final question, what is the effect of the pandemic on enrollment?
Well, we filled, I think our enrollment is pretty similar. You saw the enrollment numbers. I would say probably direct effect on the pandemic and enrollment is that we might have more students that need to take leave of absences to address things beyond their control with their family obligations. It's possible, although I haven't actually seen it, that a student will have to drop out because of a COVID-related illness. But generally speaking, I think it just goes back to that stress of trying to deal with the added obligations that they're being faced with. But I wouldn't say that the enrollment itself has changed dramatically. I think it's pretty stable, actually.
If I could just jump in, if you look
please.
at the enrollment on the first week of class, we were actually higher than we were last year. What we are waiting on is for the university official census. Usually a few weeks into the semester, they'll then take the official tally. We know we have had a few students who've had to drop out because of stress or family issues or work or COVID-related kinds of things. At this point, I don't think, unless something happens dramatically in the next few weeks, that we will have a profound impact on our enrollment in terms of going down. But a week ago, we were slightly above where we were this time last year.
That's a good thing.
And all right, and Amber, Sydney, I don't know if anybody sent either of you a private message. Okay, and I was just checking the chat. I don't see a message sent privately to myself, so I'd like to make sure that you know you can unmute yourself if you have any questions at this time.
Yeah, I have a question. What is the nursing school doing with regards to addressing the COVID-19 pandemic? Volunteer work, contact tracing, whatever means. What means are you using?
Well, directly, we're not leading any of those other than just continuing our academic mission. However, there have been many opportunities that have been made available to our faculty and our staff for things like contact tracing. That's exactly the example that I was going to use. Not only for university-wide contact tracing, but also at the state level. So there have been requests for volunteers. So we will pass that information along, but we certainly are not tracking that, as it's not officially something that we require them to do. We've also had some of our faculty and staff continue to work in the health systems and or in various clinical areas. And I know we had, I want to say 3 of our graduate students actually that stepped out of classes for a semester so they could go to some of the hardest hit parts of the country to provide care for COVID-19 patients. So I don't know if Deborah or anybody else on our faculty has other examples.
Jean, this is Suzanne.
Yeah, we're going to
Hi, Suzanne.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, the research, please.
So we do have 3 studies in which they're examining different aspects of COVID-19. 3 of our faculty have active research projects going on now that are funded to investigate different aspects of COVID-19. So I just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, that's a great one.
And we also have a number of student groups that are continuing to do volunteer work in some of the underserved areas working with RAMS. We just got approval for our students to continue that work. RAM stands for Remote Area Medical Services or something like that, and other low-income areas around the Richmond area that our students can participate in on a volunteer basis.
Jean, there was a question that was sent into me privately, and thinking you can answer this for the whole group. And that is, what are the 4 community colleges that the school has our agreements with?
Southside Virginia Community College, which is down by South Hill. John Tyler,
Rappahannock.
and
Jay Sarge is the one.
Jay Sarge is the one we're working on right now for the, yeah. And that collaborative started last fall, so we're now in our 2nd year. So these things take a little bit of time because the students, the first year it was offered, didn't have a lot of time to, get what they needed to do to be eligible. So now that they're being able to communicate this with students as they're coming in the door at the community college level, we do anticipate, particularly with scholarship support, that we're going to have a real uptick in the number of students participating.
Does anybody else have any questions that they'd like to ask, or any comments for the group?
Y'all should join us. We're having a great time down here.
Can I make a comment?
Hi, Mimi.
Hi, Jean. How are you? And all the people that I know on this call. I know some of you, but not everybody by a long stretch. But I have to tell you that I have the impression that you are not just surviving, but you're thriving in this face of this pandemic, because of all the things that you listed that you've been able to do and accomplish and work on. It's just remarkable to me that there really has not been, at least that I can see, an interruption in what the great work that the School of Nursing does. So, kudos to you and your leadership team and all the faculty for having that happen. And I guess the price tag is the stress that you all are under to get the job done, but it is remarkable. And I'm really delighted to hear that things are going forward as well as it would be in an ordinary year.
Yeah,
So
well,
thank you all.
Thank you, Mimi. I can tell you that and this isn't to brag on me as much as the efforts of my colleagues here at the school and the value of having a good partner, great partners with the health systems. But I know many deans in many of the schools that are struggling to even just get their clinicals back on. In fact, I've got a colleague in Florida who has been shut out of clinical since March. And he's going to be graduating students in May that it's possible that they will have never touched a patient because all of their clinical is being done in simulation. That frightens me, quite honestly. I just have to say, I feel like this has been a very big disruption, and I again can't say enough about how stressful it has been for our faculty and staff to make the adjustments that we have had to make, and how hard it has been for the students and the adjustments they've had to make. But at least I feel like we're giving them almost the same education as what they would have had in normal times. It's just being delivered differently. I cannot say that for many of my peer deans that are in schools that don't have the same level of support or guidance, either at the university level or the ability to get back into clinicals because they don't have the access to healthcare facilities. So I'm feeling very fortunate for our students particularly. It will be an interesting assessment, I think. And I don't know who's going to do the study, but somebody will of looking at what happens to these cohorts of students who are going through nursing school in these altered times with the altered way that we're learning, the altered clinical, and do we have some differences in the kind of healthcare professionals that are entering the workforce? Are they going to be more resilient? Are there going to be any differences? Because it's quite possible, I hate to say this, but it is quite possible that we're going to learn so much by having to do things differently that we may realize that a lot of stuff that we've been doing because we think are important at the end of the day didn't matter as much as we thought they did. And a new reality, sometimes innovation is spawned by being forced, to have to change. And so it'll be interesting to see what our long-term outcomes are going to look like.
And I just a real quick thing, Carl, you, as a follow-up to the question that you had asked, I had one of our faculty message me and indicated that there are some faculty who volunteer through the Medical Reserve Corps, through the VA Department of Health, and that we do contact tracing and COVID testing as well. So I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any a question that they'd like to ask today before we wrap up?
I'm Sue Greshaw from Florida. I'm a former faculty member at MCV, and I'm also an alumnus of there. And it is so impressive. I concur with Mimi. It is so impressive to see what you're doing. And I can tell you that I taught in an era where simulation was leaned heavily upon, and our board scores plummeted. So that is not the way to teach, hands-on clinical practice. So I applaud you. You are not paralyzed by this pandemic. You have been motivated by it, and your creativity and commend to your faculty are amazing. So congratulations on a good start off of this year. And your development numbers just continue to amaze me. When I get calls to give money, I'm always honored to do that. I don't give a ton, but it's thrilling to see how a little bit from a lot of people makes a huge difference. So what an encouragement to see those numbers on the screen today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. I appreciate those comments. Yeah, it really has been a matter of everybody coming together and working really hard to make things happen. And I don't know if Kim Curry-Larenko is on the call or not. Kim is our Assistant Dean for Academics and also our CLC, CLC, it's an acronym, the Clinical Learning Center Director. And the adjustments we've had to make just to bring students into the laboratory for learning has been like, oh my gosh, we have to just turn things upside down and rethink it. So there has needed to be some prioritization by our faculty about what is absolutely must do to come into the building and do hands-on learning, and what clinical skills could be done virtually. And when they first started talking about doing clinical skills virtually, I was a little bit pessimistic about how you could really do that. But it is interesting how creative people have become with being able to trade some of those skills. And I think, did I see Ingrid on this call? Ingrid is on the call. I see you. Ingrid, you taught health assessment this summer, and you were having to look for ways to get students virtual lab time, very creative opportunities. So I don't know if you guys have anything you want to share about that or not, but.
It was quite amazing and fun. And yeah, every week we had to figure out how we're going to do this. We did it.
Yeah.
We did it.
It'll be interesting to see how the outcomes are with the students who learned a lot of those health assessment skills in a virtual environment, as opposed to bringing them to the lab every day or every week for 4 hours to do the,
Well, fortunately, we piggyback with another course that did have the clinical component. So we gave them all the education pieces, the practice pieces, and then also this whole telehealth issues, that really has been something that picked up quite a lot since we had to. One of those innovations that you have to because of the COVID environment. I don't know how many have seen your physicians or healthcare providers online. So that's also a skill that they learned in the process.
Right.
So it's probably here to stay, the telehealth piece.
Yeah. Kim, do you have anything to add about your managing the students in your clinical learning labs?
Yes, you know, what I would say is that what's been remarkable, I think, is the students' adaptability as well. And it really, I think it speaks to the students that we have, but it also kind of speaks to their potential to envision a different way of learning, and maybe even a different way of, you know, practicing in some levels, and just kind of being open to doing things in different but creative and hopefully just as effective ways. So that's actually been inspiring, and we're learning from them. So that's been really rewarding.
I think it's rewarding. Just one more comment. It might be also rewarding for the parents of these students who have become the patients of the students as they learn. So they got closer in many ways.
Well, I appreciate our faculty who have joined in, who can help chime in and add to the conversation today. And Lisa, it looks like you've unmuted yourself.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Lisa Firestein and a very proud alumni. And I just would like to add that this really highlights the creativity and innovation of nurses, and what you, Dean, have been able to really show what you're made of. And in the middle of all this unsettledness, you also launched a brand new certificate in innovation. And so I'm really hopeful of what those nurses under this environment are going to come forth with. I think that's can leave us with such hope with what's occurring at the School of Nursing. So just in the deepest gratitude for all that we're witnessing.
Thanks.
Well, I'm so glad so many of you were able to join us today. And I'd like to wrap up with just a couple of announcements. And one is Jean shared during her presentation about our Connections magazine, which actually, for those of you who receive our email, so it should be pretty much all of you in this group, you should have received a link today for the fall edition. And this is just a quick plug and reminder that we are sending Connections out electronically right now. So we are not doing a print edition. So if you did not receive that email or link, you can feel free to reach out to me personally, or Amber Yancey or Sydney Taylor. The link is also live on our website as well. So I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. And lastly, we hope to host another couple of these virtual events yet this calendar year. And the next one is slated to introduce Dr. Amy Salisbury, who Jean also mentioned as our new research dean. So you can save the date. We have September 30th. On our calendar right now for that event. So anyway, the official invitation will come over the following weeks, but that's slated to be our next one. Jean, I don't know if you had anything final that you'd like to say. If not, we'll wrap up today's event, and also just a big thank you for all of you for attending. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you again soon. Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.